Welcome to another episode of the Booktroverts podcast. I'm McKayla.
I'm Meg.
And today we are continuing our deep dives of the Kindred's Curse Saga series, books by Penn Cole. We have made it to book 3, which is Heat of the Everflame. This book was absolutely massive. It was over 1,000 pages. So we will be breaking this up into 3 separate episodes. So the book was broken up part 1, part 2, part 3. We're going to follow that same format for the episodes. So today we are doing part 1, which is chapters 1 through 21. So like always with these episodes, we are going to talk about spoilers. This will contain spoilers for books 1, 2, and all of book 3. So if you have not read any of them, you might want to pause and come back. But yeah, with that, I think we can jump in and let's start with ratings for the book. Meg, what did you think of this one? We are coming off of a 5-star for book 2.
I know, because we both did a 5-star, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. So I really like this one. I ended up rating it a 4.75, and I think for me, the ending was just so crazy that I think it hit me vibes style. You know what I mean? Of just, oh, this is a vibe. I'm going to rate it higher. But in all honesty, there was just so much. And I forgot about parts. When we basically were reading part 3, I completely forgot about things that happened in part 1. And when we were writing our notes, like, oh my God, that actually happened in this book. That was in book 2. So I'm still sticking with the 4.75 after, reading it. But I liked how she broke it up into the 3 sections because it definitely was fitting to what detail you get each group. So
yeah, completely agree. I felt like the parts really reminded me of Onyx Storm. I know Onyx Storm didn't have set parts of the book, but like the way we broke up our episodes, like every part, air quotes for part, was like a new location or a new kind of thing we were dealing with, which is similar to this book. Every part kind of was very distinct in like what was going on, where they were, things that they were learning. So I did like that format as well. I ended up giving this one a 4. Honestly, I probably could have done some type of 4-point like decimal point thing, but I did not have the brain power after finishing the book to like go that in depth into the rating. I definitely still like book 2 more. That's my favorite of the series at this point. There were just a few things in this book that I just kind of annoyed me, which we'll get through as we talk through the 3 episodes, especially something that happened right in the beginning of part 1 that just like didn't love, making me wait until 93% of the book, chapter 72, for a fucking spicy scene. Like, I've been reading 3 fucking books. You're kidding me.
Whenever I hit it, I go, I know you were before me when you finished the book before me a couple days. I literally could not stop laughing. I go, this is how long it took. At first, I go, we are not going to get one. We are going to end this book with literally nothing, and it is going to be an extreme slow burn. I mean, literally keeping the coals still hot, but nothing's aflaming at all. It was just... No.
I got to the point where I Googled it. What chapter is the spicy scene? Because I was like, I need something to look forward to. Like, I'm pissed.
No, you did not.
I did, because I was pissed. None of these settings are in is conducive for like this happening. And I'm sorry, you built me up for 2 books. This book is 1,000 pages. It was presented to me as a romantasy.
Yeah.
I need more than longing looks and a kiss here and there. I looked it up, and someone was like, oh, chapter 20 something. I was like, the finger bang? Are you kidding me? This is what... No. That's child's play at this point. And when I saw chapter 72, I was... You gotta be fucking kidding me. And then I was like, okay, I didn't know how many chapters were in the whole book. Keep reading. I'm like, we're getting pretty far into this. When I got to 72 and I saw it was 93%, I was like, well, fuck me.
Yeah.
1 chapter of it. And honestly, it was good, but... It could have been better.
You know what it was for me is, your point.
Compared to any other book, it's an amazing chapter, but I was like, you built me up for so long. No, this needed to be like the most insane thing I've ever fucking read.
I needed 3 chapters long at this point because of how long we've had to wait. I think we were thrown into this with false pretenses of it being a romantasy. It is high fantasy with some romance. This is Throne of Glass, but with a little more spice thrown in there. Do you know what I mean? Because the spice was well done, like we said. The chapter was really well done. But it was similar to Throne of Glass in the sense of we are on book 6 out of, you know, how many there were, and we're finally getting a spice scene for everything. It's just, I would have rather someone told me it's high fantasy with some romance, and I would have had the expectation set of, okay, it'll be a nice bonus when we get this. But I was expecting throne scene vibes throughout the whole series, and that did not happen.
Yeah, me too. And yeah. I was not happy. I was like, I feel like a fucking clown. I'm on here every episode. You know, next book we're getting it. Is the Spice in the Brew with us? Because I couldn't find it.
When I was editing the second book, the part 2, and we're just, oh, you know, we're gonna have a lot more of this person. We better have a lot more of this. I could not stop laughing at myself. I go, we've literally said this in every single episode, and I don't know when it's gonna come true.
Every episode, I felt like an idiot. I was like, where the hell is this spicy scene? Because people were like, oh, it gets crazy in book. Where? I mean, I found it at the end, but
yeah.
Where was it? So it could not be a 5-star just on principle for that. But yeah, I feel like a 4 might be too low, and I might change it as we come to the end of the deep dive. So ask me at the end of part 3 episode, but definitely a 4. I liked it. It was so much happened.
There was so much, and like I said, the way that it was split up into 3 parts was great. I felt as if I was kind of getting mini books in that sense. Okay, one kind of concluded and was done, or it left us on a little cliffhanger, basically, that we got, you know, resolved in the next part. So, you know, or a large cliffhanger that we now have to wait until the final book. But, you know, not getting too far into the combo on that. But for me, it just, there was so much info. Going back through my notes, I literally was just, wow, okay, this happened. I need to go back in the book and read it again, because I just did not place it in the same book.
Yeah.
1,000 pages is a lot.
It's a lot. I did feel like it didn't feel long though reading, because it was pretty engaging throughout the whole thing. It is crazy. I texted you this. I was like, I don't know if we're like, the book is just predictable, or we're just getting like better because we've read a lot of fantasy books at this point, that we're kind of picking up on the little clues, or like better able to theorize what could happen. But
yeah,
a lot of things that we have made comments on the podcast, even if they were just like throwaway comments, actually came true. And it's just, I love that for us, because that means it's aging well. Some things have not, though.
Yeah, no, some things have definitely not aged well. But yeah, for the most part, really good on our part. You know what I mean? There was so much, and I think it literally was part 2 of the second book. There was a section that we literally just said a throwaway comment, and it ended up being a thing that happens in part 3. So it was just wow, okay, we're really good at this. I mean, there was definitely some stuff that she threw in there that, at least it shocked me, in terms of, oh, okay, this is definitely different and I don't know where it's going. But I also didn't have the most bizarre theories either. It was pretty tame in terms of theories. I mean, and it's not comparing, but for Onyx Storm, I have so many out there theories of what could happen for the next book. But this one was kind of just I think I could probably these top 3 and that's it, and we'll see how it goes. And if it's not, I'll be okay, whatever, that's fine. But
yeah, I agree. I have a handful.
Yeah,
I don't feel like anything super outlandish but I will say, after book 1 and after book 2, I didn't have theories of what the next book was. It was just things like, oh, we definitely should get more of her mom. Oh, we'll definitely get a spice scene. More of that like structure of the book. Ending this one, I definitely have theories of where I think it's going to go in book 4 and how things are going to connect, because book 4 will be the last one. And so how I think she'll wrap things up. I have more theories now, but I didn't have that earlier in the series. But I agree. Not as crazy as Onyx Storm makes you think.
Yeah, exactly. That one just hurts your brain with the variety you could go.
Yeah. But no. Yeah. Definitely, I still like book 2 more though.
Yeah, I agree. It was more powerful overall, and I don't know.
Just more, it was a little more exciting, I think.
Yeah, I think the aspect of it still being in Lumnos specifically was really cool, because we got such a variety of new people, and
the cast of characters was just too much in the second book. They were just all over the place.
Yeah. Agreed. All right, so we can jump into the first section, which is chapters 1 through 7. So the overview for this is Diem has been captured by the Guardians and is being held prisoner. It ends with Cordelia helping her escape the island. It's basically getting her out of there. Again, this is another one of those that it's just a brain dump of detail, kind of, pre-chapters for me before the book gets going again. It seems that this has literally been par for the course for each book, but what were your initial thoughts for this, and what was your big thing that you got from this? Because there was a couple things that I said, I don't know when this is going to happen again.
Well, first off, I love how you, in the second book and in this one, you kind of the book didn't really feel like it started until X chapter, because these are like bridging stuff, and I completely agree with that thought process that you said, because these definitely felt like bridging chapters of like, okay, book 2 ends with the bomb going off, we're scattering off the island, we don't know what's happening to Diem. This picks up with like her now being hostage by the Guardians, and we're getting kind of reacclimated with where we're at in our story, but like she's off on her own. We don't know where the other characters are. The biggest thing for me on this chunk of chapters, it felt very long.
Yeah.
I understand setting the scene, her being captured by the Guardians, and I believe in book 2 it was like 6 chapters for bridging, I think is when we said it kind of started. So it was very similar lengthwise, but I felt like in book 2, while it was still bridging of like, her finding out she's queen to like how does she actually get to the palace and get introduced as the queen, the story kept moving forward and it kept you engaged. This, it got to a point where I felt like it was getting really repetitive. There was only so many times they could tell me she was chained to a tree and they were drugging her with flame root and they all hated her. It just felt like it was that over and over again, and there wasn't enough information or key pieces that she was picking up from the character she was interacting with that I felt like moved the story along enough to have made it last 7 chapters. But yeah, that I guess was like my big like initial thing, and this is really why I was like, oh, am I gonna like this book, because this is kind of dragging for me right here. It does pick up after this point, but I just felt that it was a little too drawn out.
Yeah, I am with you 100%. My first note was literally, I feel like we were in this area for way too long. And to your point, I think there was the people that we were interacting with in that first part. It could have been shortened in the details that we had of, Cordelia and understanding her dynamic with Vance, and, the Queen of Arboros is there as well, being held prisoner as well. We find out that Breck is also there. Those people are fine to interact with. I had no issue with that. It was just, I think it could have done without a bunch of this stuff. I was, not confused, but just to your point of they were doing the flame root and everything. And then she's able to, pull the tree out of the ground and everything. And I said, okay, where is her power coming from that the flame root can't even tame it? Because it definitely sounds as if she has way more than she should. And it does get to the point where we find out more that she, gets that power throughout the rest of the realms. But that was a huge piece. But I feel like it went way too fast for that part. And then everything else was a little slow for me. So I think personally I would have just gotten rid of like 2 chapters maybe. It would have been fine.
Yeah, I don't think it needed to be 7. Especially like the beginning ones were very much like, I don't know where I am. I'm with the Guardians. I don't know how I'm getting out. The flame root, that was interesting too, when she was able to pull the tree. But then also she was starting to pick up that they were drugging her, like putting it in the food and giving her the drink. So she stopped eating and drinking. And then they very quickly picked up on that. So I was like, can you be like a little bit more sly about what you're doing? But clearly she has so much. But then it was interesting because as we get to it, when she later escapes from there, she will mention like, oh, the flame root hasn't worn off yet, I can't use my magic. So I'm like, was that just like you were so overcome with an emotion that you were able to do that? It just seems like her magic is still being pretty inconsistent, or she doesn't really understand like how to control it or where it's all coming from. I will say the Queen of Arboros part really threw me. I was just like, oh, she just was a hostage. Like, I didn't think anything of it. It didn't cross my mind. I was just like, oh, maybe they were just trying to grab whoever they could grab to like take them, because they obviously wanted to get rid of the crowns. And I genuinely thought when they moved her, they were going to kill her or do something, like torture her for information. Later we find out she's actually been helping them. But I thought it was interesting that she didn't like say anything to Diem, and when like Diem very clearly was like trying to help her and like risking her life to save this queen. But I did not see that one coming.
I didn't either. That one actually was probably the most shocking thing that we found out, because like you said, I think I thought she was going to get killed, especially with how many weapons they had that could injure Descended or kill Descended. So yeah, that was wild. But I know, jumping ahead to the end, but she totally was just fending, you know, for herself and saying, okay, my people, and that's it, and sorry. But it still was weird because he went through this whole thing. I would have thought maybe, okay, there's another person who also feels the same way about wanting to help out both sides, not always just, you know, everyone's perfect. So I don't know, who knows. Maybe in book 4 we'll get something.
Who knows. Speaking of her though, this is something I did not remember it while I was reading the book, but I was just going back to pull clips from when we talked about Spark of the Everflame. And at the end of Spark, there's I think it's in the epilogue from Auralie's chapter. She says 3 people knew where she was. And we were saying on the episode that we thought maybe, you know, obviously Luther, we figured Vance or someone, and we said, oh, maybe Henry is the 3rd person who knew where she was. But then, like, that hasn't come back up.
Yeah. Because
obviously it was in Auralie's chapter, so the other characters didn't know. So who do you think the 3rd person is now that like, we've understood kind of more how the Guardians work? Like, do you think it's Cordella? Do you think maybe it was Brack?
Oh,
do you think it's the Queen of Arboros?
So the only reason why I think it might be, because correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm trying to remember all of the sections. Did Luther brought Auralie because he was a stand-in basically for the king at the last forging day. My guess, if now that we know about Arboros, it wouldn't shock me if she was the 3rd person, because Andre, I think, had said he didn't know where she was going, but knew that she would be gone. Luther knew for sure because he was the one that brought her there. So maybe it was Cordella and Arboros. Because, I mean, I don't even know if Vance knew or if he just wanted to take, you know, control. Because I don't think he knew a lot. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Take that back. I think he knew because he knew where to put the bombs and everything.
Yeah. And
I don't know. That's a good question.
I don't know how to say his name, but her dad.
Ophik?
Yeah, I have no clue.
I'm going to call him that.
O or something for right now.
Yeah, right.
He's already escaped, I think, by the time she's gotten onto the island.
The bomb lets him free.
So maybe he's the 3rd and he heard her. Because remember, it's crazy. Also, sorry, I'm like mixed. I know this isn't part of these chapters, but
yeah,
it's just things that now like we had questions about in book 1 that are coming up. When we were reading the epilogue and we were talking about it on the episode, you made a comment how like, is she with someone who's chained up? And I was like, I did not catch that at all in the chapter. And you were like, no, I'm pretty sure she said something about like steps and like he's chained. And you were like, who's the chained guy?
It's this guy.
It's him. So maybe she did see him while she was there for those months and she was trying to avoid him.
Maybe
that's who she was trying to avoid. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. It's a good question. He's part of the 3rd people. I mean, I don't even know if we'll get an answer to that.
Probably not.
I think that's just going to be a throwaway sentence of, okay, well, now you know where I am at this point in time. So.
Yeah, and if I have to get an Auralie POV to get that answer, I'm all set.
I'm good. I will gladly pass on that.
Sorry. So those are just things in Spark that came up.
Yeah.
That because I was just looking at that footage, that now, like, that we're with the Guardians more made me think, like, oh, yeah, who were those people? The other big thing that in this section of chapters, I'm pretty sure I said it during the Glow deep dive, but I fucking hate Vance so much. Yeah, I hate him. With you. But, like, different hate. Like, I hate Henry because he's just, like, he's so useless. And he's, like, pointless to the story. Vance is just like a villain. I hate this man. And I don't think he ever was a good person from the beginning, from when we're introduced to him. But definitely I feel like over the course of the books, he's just gotten worse. His mindset has just gotten more and more evil. He just wants to wipe everyone, all the Descended out. He doesn't even care. I think he's really just lost the plot of what he's fighting for. But when he is basically going against Cordelia, who's above him technically, or I think maybe they're equal, but she's the person in charge of this area that they're staying in. So he should be listening to her, and he does not want to do it. He's going against her orders. And they have very different philosophies on what they're fighting for and how things should be done. And I was just like, you're so disrespectful. And then he starts cutting Diem's wrist to get her blood, which I was so mad about.
Oh, yeah.
Because at this point, we don't realize that the blood has to be given willingly for it to be able to work. So that is a very big, important piece that comes into play here. But just taking her blood so he can go to the palace and go kill everyone. I hate him so much.
Oh, it was so bad. And I think that's what made this section even worse for me, was just how much I hated him and really wanted something to happen to him. But he's just, you know, a parasite and isn't going to go away, is pretty much how he is. I don't think there's any saving him at all. I just think that's who he's going to be, is he is just out for the mortals to be the only thing there. I'm not going to try and say his name again, but O is probably just going to be the main person that has magic, and that's it in his eyes. That, you know what I mean? It's just the one person that they would include in the Descended world. But yeah, it was so bad. That part with the taking the blood literally had me panicking. I go, where are we going with this book? Because I don't know what's going to happen.
She looked like she was about to bleed out.
I know. And I go, she needs to be saved. And then they need to rush back to the palace because this is it. They're getting a blood
transfusion.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
It was wild. They had so much Godstone.
So much? They must, I guess, was this all the stuff that Breck was low-key taking from the Fortos King? Because if so, were they just storing it with this group? Because they have everything.
They had everything. All those bombs they had, like, I don't know, they felt like slingshot catapult things to me, too, that they were using to throw stuff. I'm like, damn, you guys got a lot of weapons. I mean, they did raid the armory. Yeah. I was like, you got a lot.
Yeah, they really prepped.
Well stocked. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, in the sense of being a rebel group, good for you that you have that much to try and make a difference. But also, is this the one place you were storing it? Because it just sounded as if they kept everything in this one area.
Yeah, what are the other groups doing? Because there's still like other groups of them across all the realms. It was crazy.
Yeah. But then again, we do learn with Cordelia is very much like Orly in the sense of they didn't want violence to be the primary thing. They wanted to make a difference another way compared to Vance that just is out for blood. Yeah. That is at the end of the day. So there are people, and I think maybe the other Guardians groups are just similar to Cordelia and Orlean, that they don't, violence isn't their first step. They're going to try other things to get, you know, and ruin the Descended stay or whatever. But
yeah, no, I agree. I definitely felt like Cordelia was more aligned with how people have spoken about Orly as the leader of the Guardians. Obviously, at this point in the book, we have not seen her interact with them and be in that leader position, so we're just taking other people's words for it. But it definitely seems like they're more aligned than Cordelia would be with Vance. It just seems like they have very different views on what they should be doing, the path forward to accomplish the goal that they have set. Yeah,
exactly. The one part that was... I think I literally just said, oh, finally, we're going to get out of this section, was when Sorey and Luther finally show up.
God, yeah.
But then it was just so quick. I go,
so quick.
No, we need this now. I need to be done with this section. What?
Yeah. Because the second they started it, I mean, granted, I knew Diem didn't want Sorey to get hurt. So, yeah. But I'm like, come on, just a little swoop in, swoop out.
I know.
And we'll get out. I mean, we did get Sorey burning off Vance's arm, so.
That was definitely needed. I would gladly take that. Maybe that was our reward for dealing with the book this long so far.
It was so sad though. Like, Luther came to get her and he didn't even get to do anything. 3 seconds later, she's like, take him away.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God.
Don't come back. No.
That was the other thing too, because we were separated from Luther.
Yeah.
Which it was probably only a few chapters, but it felt too long, especially after how the last book ended. And we had no clue if he was alive. And what is going on? Where is Luther? I really thought he was going to be kidnapped by them as well. I didn't realize that he was going to get off the island.
Yeah, I also, because Orly had slashed the back of his feet or whatever so that he couldn't move. So I just figured he would have been, he would have been taken by the group, especially because he was so close to where it sounded as if Orly was hiding in the trees still. So I don't know if he just army crawled himself out of there to get back to the boat. But yeah, I thought he was going to be taken prisoner as well. But
yeah, I have no clue. And then I was really surprised at the end of this little section when Diem kind of like starts being taken, and she's so confused. Where I thought it was Vance and his group coming to kill her.
Yep.
Turns out it's Breck, and him and Cordelia are sneaking her out of the Guardian camp. Yeah. And they put her on a boat to like help her escape. And then I totally understood where they were like, you know, we're helping you now, but if you say this to anyone, like, we did not help you, because at the end of the day they have to protect their own reputation amongst their people, because clearly there's so much interpersonal conflict happening between the Guardians, and there's definitely little like mini pockets of who they're gonna support or whatever.
Exactly.
But the Breck of it really threw me.
I didn't expect him to be with this group, because it definitely seems he is an outcast in basically both areas. I mean, because he can't be seen in Fortos or Lumnos because of the fact that he was stealing all of the, you know, the weapons from the king. So, I mean, I was shocked for him to be there. I am so curious how he will come back, because he literally said to Diem, oh no, you owing me something isn't done yet. This is nothing, you know, compared to what you'll have to do in the future. So I'm hoping he comes back in book 4, because it'd be pretty weird if they just don't ever see him again. But yeah, very interesting, the two of them. I mean, you could kind of see Cordelia understanding that, okay, Diem's very much like her mom in the sense of she wants, you know, there to be equality, but more, not, I guess, less like her mom in the sense of Diem does see good in the Descended as well. It isn't just a one way or the highway with the mortals. But yeah, Breck being there was just not expected at all. I thought it was so weird that he was helping her. Also, I was like kind of thrown that Cordelia was the one helping her off as well. It made sense, but I was like, what is going on here? I was at this point, I was like, how are you getting off this island? We have not come up with a plan at all. Yeah, and then they just basically said, take this boat and get out of here. Yeah. Which we need to get into the boat, but I'll let you give like if there's anything else you have in this little section, and if not, you want to give the overview for the next section, because then I have lots of questions about the boat. Yeah, I have thoughts on it too, so so we'll just jump in. The next section is chapters 8 through 14. So Diem is unable to escape by the boat. She is still on the island, but quickly realizes that Luther, Taryn, and Alex are also there to rescue her. And then the chapters basically focus on the battle with the Guardians on the island where Diem was being held. So I'm just going to pass it over to you. What were your thoughts on the boat?
I'm hoping you can help me. Now, okay. I will raise my hand and say I think I was being a skim reader at this point, unknowingly. Against my will, I thought I was reading every page. But I read her getting on this boat, and she's like inventorying the supplies she has on the boat, and she's like, okay, it's going to take me X number of days to get back to Lumnos. Great. I thought she made it pretty far. I thought she was in the water. And then next thing I know, the boat is like upside down. She's wet. She's getting off the boat, and she's on the same island. Yeah. I was so confused. I was like, did I miss something? I felt like she made it pretty far. So I either definitely misread something, or this place is humongous.
So, okay, there was the wind basically was preventing her from going any farther. and it was, instead of pushing her in the direction to Lumnos, it was pushing her back to the island for some reason.
Oh, see, this is everything I missed.
Okay, and I think what it has to do is the fact that it was pushing her back and saying, you need to be here. I know you're trying to leave, but there is something going on. And I think it's because Luther was there. And this is, again, goes into the whole thing that I really think that they're mates. I think it just solidifies more that, you know, Lumnos and whatever other kindred is decide. I forget which one has the wind, but basically said, no, honey, you can't go that way. He is actually this way. You need to go and
okay.
And
I like
back.
that.
Yeah, that's what went on in my mind. So I don't know if that's actually true, but
let's take it, because I was so confused. I was like, you just got off this. How are you back on? And then it felt like it was 20 minutes later. Like it would have been like a SpongeBob thing, like 2 seconds later, back on the island. So confused. So then, this is really where I started getting frustrated, though, because I was so hopeful that we were out of this section, and then we were back on the island.
I know.
It's like, oh, you got to be kidding me. We're going to be back with these people. How are we going to... I was so confused where we were progressing with the story.
Yeah.
But when she got into that little tent and she saw them all around the bonfire and she gets grabbed and then very quickly realizes it's Taryn, I was like, yes.
I think he literally said Queenie or something, and I just literally freaked out. I go, oh, thank you so much. We are back. We are back.
Yes. So the crew was back to rescue her. But I don't know. I just felt like, I'd be pissed if I was Cordelia and Brett. Like, you couldn't even make it to like the next island.
I know.
You're here again?
Yeah, I know. We literally told you to leave. Yeah.
And Taryn, not Taryn, but Luther's like arguing with Cordelia, like, show me where she is.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, of course, he's right in the middle of everything.
And then the three of them don't have their magic, or it's coming in little bits, because this is where we start seeing that basically breaking up the Heartstone has slowly removed the borders and all of that. But yeah, that part, to your point, I go, how long are we going to be on this freaking location? At least there was something in this section for me that at least
action.
Yeah, and it also gave a little more growth to some of the characters and everything there. So, and we were back with our crew, so I liked it. It was okay, good. We know everyone's safe, at least in this group, and we're cool. Yeah, that was fine.
I will say I like that most of the book is this group of 4. Yeah, but I was missing Eleanor.
I agree.
And Lily and Teller. I was sad that there was not enough of them in this book.
We literally got, I think, only a couple chapters with them, and that was it. It wasn't good.
I mean, I love these other two, this little 4 group, but I was sad. I was like, where's the core 7?
I was gonna say the larger group is definitely the preferred.
Yeah, but no, they were good. Yeah, they were good. And then of course, you know, things escalate very quickly.
Yeah. Shocker.
And you gotta love DM. Let me grab a bomb to create a diversion to stop the fighting. Oh, you're gonna run in with a bomb and think that's gonna keep people calm?
Yeah.
To prevent violence. Like, these are the things with her where I'm just... Her age and naivety just comes in. I'm like, ugh, what are you 100%. Doing?
100%. I mean, I don't
war
even
hero
know
she is not.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't even know how old Luther is still. I don't think we actually get his age, but I mean, at least they have some type of idea of what they're gonna do.
Strategy, like, she doesn't have any of... I mean, I guess she's just like thinking quick in the moment, but even Taryn has no plan, because she turns to him first, like, how are you guys planning to rescue me? He was like, I only thought this far. I didn't think of anything else.
He is literally there for the ride, there for the vibes.
The two of them are the blind leading the blind.
Yeah, pretty much, which is so entertaining, but as a reader, it was just so frustrating, because DM's learned so much. And the fact that she even, I think, thinks it that me having a bomb, I am the queen, and I'm coming in with with this weapon basically to scare people away is gonna help. I go, yeah, maybe, I don't know, you don't even need to throw the bomb. You could have just made some explosion in the woods over here, and then had them go run to that or something. You know what I mean? I don't know. In my head, I'm just scared of the horse. I don't know.
Yeah. In a less populated area. She's like, no, I'm going to run right through.
Yeah.
But don't worry. I'm going to warn everyone to run.
Right.
Before I do anything. And I'm like, you're not really helping your case here of trying to prove to them that you care for mortals and descended, because you're running into the mortal area with the intent to light a bomb to protect the descended that are here. You're not helping yourself. So I understood the frustration from the Guardians when they're like, the math is not mathing there.
Yeah.
Because I totally could see how it looks from there. And obviously we're in DM's point of view, so you're understanding her thoughts behind it. But
yeah,
I was like, girl, what are you doing?
I know. And it doesn't help too that she ends up killing a mortal, because I think it was literally her life or Luther's life or whatever, or the mortals. And she didn't necessarily try to. It was just, unfortunately, you know, weapons did not clash. It just went right into the poor mortal.
Yeah,
just,
it's not my fault the sword went right into your heart.
Right.
You walked into it.
Yeah, I wasn't aiming there.
Yeah, but I mean, it is kind of the first, or one of the first times that we see her have to make that choice between him or the mortals that she's saying that she protects. And, you know, obviously, she's going to protect him. They're mates.
Exactly.
Fully mates.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing.
I mean, it's not confirmed, but like they are.
In our mind, 100% confirmed.
Yeah.
But
but the killing of the mortal, you know, like everything with her comes back to bite her in the ass.
It does. And that's where I think this section of the book is going to be crucial, because it's totally going to be brought back up in book 4 of what she chose over, you know, what she should have done. I mean, I understand Luther was probably in the worst situation of the fact that he literally was talking to Cordelia, and she, you know, can't say, oh yeah, just put her on a boat, go over there.
Yeah,
like, I have to
in front of everyone.
You, right? So I understand you're in that predicament, but yeah, I also think too, for her, is a lot of it, we've seen growth in each book of now she is fully descended and has no problem admitting that to people of, I don't care, I am a descended, but I also came from a mortal lifestyle, and that is also a place that you know, that she wants to protect. So I think this too is very much eating at her of, oh God, I did choose the descendant. Am I any better than them? But no, you ended up making a choice, and you have to live with it, and you'll just have to see where it goes in the future and what other choices you make to help people out, whatever side you choose. So
yeah, she needs to get comfortable with that. I definitely think that's gonna be the theme of, I mean, we saw it more as we went through this book, but it's definitely going to be the theme of book 4.
Yeah,
you know, you're going to have to make those hard decisions. You can't protect everyone.
Yeah,
and the saying I'll just risk my own life is no longer going to be the solution, the go-to solution. No. You know, people aren't going to have to be sacrificed, essentially. It also really did not help her, though, that the mortal she kills, the brother of this mortal, runs with Vance's crew, who seem to be like the more radical of the Guardians. So, I mean, just to add fuel to that fire.
Exactly.
Her victim was probably like the worst person. I don't think it would have been good in any situation, but if it was someone who's more like on the mentality of Orly and Cordelia, I think it could have worked a little bit better in her favor.
Exactly.
But it just angered this person and then this entire group even more.
Yeah. And I know I'm jumping a bit, but I am curious what happens with Cordelia and the rest of the group, because we know that Vance is with O at some point in the rest of the book. So I'm just trying to figure out, did he just say, all right, screw you all, I'm going to do my radical insanity and just go off and do this? Or I just don't know where the rest of the Guardians are. Are they still trying to fight the cause, but with their way? So I think we'll get answers, because I do think a lot of people will come back as a clash in the bigger war that's going to go on. But I'm just curious. It's not like a huge question I need an answer to, but I just was, I wonder where they are and what they're doing.
I'll be interested to see too. This is stuff that happened to the end of the book, but they were on the island where the foraging ceremonies happened, and the Guardians had, after the bomb, they took that area over. And at the end of the book, when they put that spell, so that only crowns can go on the island. Everyone had very limited time to get off the island. I'll be curious to see how many guardians were able to get off of it. I'm assuming she stayed and she was with that group because that seemed to be her kind of territory. So I'll be curious to see if she got off the island. Yeah. And then do they link up with Orally? Because, you know, she got left in that like mountain area outside of Sophos. Yeah. So I'll be curious to see if they maybe head there or where they choose to set up like their camp next.
Agreed.
And how impacted their numbers are.
Yeah. Yeah, because we don't know anything. Again, it's kind of just another thing happens and then we're just, all right, goodbye. That's it for the chapter, or that's it for the book.
Yeah. It will definitely be interesting. Another thing that happens in this little section is the group of 4, so Alex, Taryn, Luther, and DM, start to flee the area after this whole like bomb situation. And the only group that really stays hot on their heels is Vance's group. Mm-hmm. It's very clear he's out for a vengeance. Now, I was kind of going back and forth. Do I think he wants to kill her? Do I think he wants to capture her? What was his end goal with her? Because at this point, he has gotten her blood.
Yeah.
So he thinks, he has what he needs to get into the palace. Clearly at the palace, his only goal was to go in and kill everyone at the palace. Mm-hmm. But I didn't know, if he actually got her, what he was going to do in that situation.
I don't know either, because I don't know. They kind of have mentioned a few times with Vance that he doesn't think everything through and the rage really just takes over. And I don't think that he knows that if Diem is to die, a new crown literally gets chosen, and then Diem's blood is useless to get in the palace, so you're back at square one. I mean,
yeah, he probably doesn't realize that the blood would be useless because she didn't even know that the blood had switched over to be hers, and she didn't even know how the blood locks worked, which we later find out. So he definitely didn't think that part through.
No, I think he literally was just going after her to kill her and say, okay, I'm finally done with you. I don't care that you're Orly's daughter. We saved you by literally having you as prisoner instead of leaving you for dead, but
Yeah. And then I got the impression that while he wasn't going to actively kill her himself, he definitely was encouraging people to hurt her. When the brother of the person that she killed, he makes that comment, oh, would your brother agree with this? How she said it wasn't intentional. So he was definitely egging people on. I was so confused because I was like, okay, you're just gonna kill her. I feel like there was more if you really wanted to make a big statement as the big rebel guy, capturing her, torturing her, maybe killing her in the public square like they used to do with the mortals would have been, more impactful. But yeah, I really just hated him so much.
Yeah, I'm with you. And unfortunately, he doesn't end there. It's kind of, he comes back.
Oh, no, he has to come back. He's like a cockroach. I know. But also, while they're kind of fleeing, it was weird because I'm like, this place must be huge because it wasn't an active chase the entire time. There were spots where they were kind of camping out a little bit, and I loved how she was not fazed by having to be in the woods, and all of them were like, we would just use our magic to get this stuff.
Right, I know.
And I liked that, how the dynamic, she was kind of the one in charge now. They've been teaching her everything the last book, and it was nice to see that kind of get switched. But we find out from, I think it's from Alex, that Remus is just refusing to step down as the regent. He's still acting as the crown. Yeah. And, we don't know why, but then later we find out it's because he's heard that the ceremony did not go to plan, so she's not technically the coronated queen. Yeah. And I'm just like, again, these people continue to be a pain in our side. Mm-hmm. And which means Aemon is still the keeper of the law. So now she's worried I'm gone. People are probably dying because he's upholding of those terrible, terrible laws where the half-mortals have to be killed.
Yeah, and it's going to look like she disappeared because they're not telling anyone what happened.
That she's been kidnapped.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, word gets out and everything slowly but surely, but who's going to believe that right away, especially if they've been hesitant to believe her the entire time? You know what I mean? It's just, oh no, she ran off to be with the Descendants. She doesn't care about the mortals anymore. There's so many things that the narrative could be written about her in Lumnos without her being there.
Yeah. And I will say, Remus, he's not in the book a lot, but damn, did he make an impact. everything he did, the very few times he, ugh.
Yeah.
What a thorn in the side.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, well done in the sense of we don't need to see someone a lot.
To feel the pain.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It packed a punch in the small amount that he was there.
And just like this first thing, you're like, oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, this is just the start of what... Yeah. Because he's quiet for then a good chunk of the book, and then he comes back at the end with a vengeance. I like that Gareth was not really in it. That I loved, but...
I agree.
I can't take him. But that was just interesting that, you know, they're kind of filling her in on what's going on at home. And this, him being the regent, very key piece of information comes into play later. Yeah. So definitely dropping like the little Easter eggs throughout the book, like little one-off conversations end up being important, which I appreciate.
Agreed.
And I will say, for a book that's 1,000 pages, I've read a few of them this year, unfortunately, and most of them I've left being like, a lot of this could have been cut out. It was kind of fluff at the end of the day, because you have to keep someone so engaged to make them want to read 1,000 pages, because that's a lot of days of reading just to get through a book.
Yeah.
And I really thought this was well done, where every conversation, even if it felt random or just small, came back in some way. Even if you didn't realize it in the moment that you were learning like a really key piece of information, or you're just like, okay, that's cool to know that that's going on back then, but once she gets home it'll be all cleared up. But no, it had such an impact later in the book. I really liked that, and I think that's what made the book feel not as long.
Yeah, I agree with you, because to your point, 1,000-page book can be a lot and can be a huge undertaking, and this did not feel that way. And it was we said at the beginning, it was sectioned off in nice ways of the 3 parts, but within it, each part had things that either came back in the rest of the book or probably are going to be important in book 4. So having that information is really helpful. But I mean, besides the first section that we talked about, there weren't a lot of parts that I felt, okay, we could have gotten rid of this, maybe shortened by a bit, but that's being super nitpicky. But for the most part, it was pretty much this all made sense, and this was actually pretty valuable, and I got a lot out of this, so calling this a win.
No, completely agree. And then the only other big piece that I had in this little section, so you might have more, of course, they have to get into like a little tussle with Vance and his crew.
I know.
And no one was getting out unscathed. Taryn ends up being stabbed by a godstone weapon.
Yeah.
Which is lethal.
Yeah. And he just, I have to say, he's just totally, all right, if this is how I'm going to go battling, and just went wild on them and basically said, okay, is that how you want to play? And just, it didn't seem as if it weakened him in that moment. It just seems a prolonged and a, lengthy weakening state, if that makes any sense at all. But he just went nuts in that sense. So I absolutely love that. One thing I wanted to mention quickly before going into that, because I had a couple questions on this, was Luther used the compass to find Diem because it was what his heart desired most. And I said, I don't know what it is with compasses, but they truly are so important in these series for some reason. But I think it's gonna come back and be important more and more. I don't want to get too far into the part 3, so I'm gonna write this down on my notes later of a thought on this. But I feel like it's gonna be super important going into book 4 as well, because we're left at a huge cliffhanger as well. But yes, I just had to throw that in there because I knew I would forget about my thought process on that of what.
So sweet. I love that this book, the compass, is a huge part of this book. I love that he basically stole that gift from her, and it is now his compass. He just took that. He has it the entire book, which I love. And then 2 things. One, it gives me hope that in book 4 of Empyrean, my theory that the broken compass that Violet gets is going to be very important, because I'm hoping Rebecca read this series and she liked the idea of a compass. So I hope that. And then also, if you did not know, you can read the first 3 chapters of Burn of the Everflame, which is book 4. They are available if you sign up for the newsletter. I don't know if you read them yet, Meg.
I have not, shockingly.
So I'm not going to say anything.
Yeah.
The compass makes a appearance in the first 3 chapters, so the compass will continue to be important, which I love.
Okay, you know what? I'm going to just say my comment in part 3. I think that, I'm just going to say it because who cares? We're going to jump ahead, and I hope this ages well, and if it doesn't, oh well, I'll take it as a loss. But I swear I think that Diem's father is going to come back and take her because he's the only other crown that can step on Coriel, you know, without literally perishing as soon as he steps there. And I think the compass is going to be how Luther gets back to her wherever she is taken, because I don't think she's staying on the island. So... sorry, I had to get all that out because fuck writing notes.
Luther is definitely now keeper of the compass.
Yeah, it's just his vibe. It's who
she goes missing a lot.
You know what? It's a really bad hide and seek game that they're playing. It's not good.
She's always going rogue, but it was really, really sweet. I can't even remember though if it was in part 1 or if it was in part 2. So again, we're blurring the lines here.
Yeah.
This is why you have to read the whole book to listen to these episodes.
Yep.
But when Taryn lets it slip that he used the compass because he's in love with her.
The whole thing. It was just so sweet. It also becomes really important that this is info we get at this section before we go into the rest of part 1 and into part 2. And I don't know if it was, you know, placed here to give us this, oh my God, their love is super strong, to then, you know, have to deal with some trials there. But I just think it was placed in a part that gives you those really high highs, and then you're gonna get some lows coming up soon.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean?
The trials of part 2 where you know, everyone has to have a flaw.
Exactly. But yeah, sorry, I literally just,
that's an important
threw
piece
us off in a realm. But in terms of the fighting and everything, it was pretty interesting that Luther basically stays back to help Taryn fight because the two of them are just going nuts without their magic. They're still pretty powerful warriors. And Alex basically says, okay, I'm taking Diem and running because she is the crown. And this is something that we'll touch on later on, but I think it's one of the first times that Alex fully chooses Diem instead of saying, oh no, I want to fight, or oh no, we have to get everyone out, whatever it is, because she was important in the first couple books, in the second book primarily, but I feel like we're really getting more from her in this book. Like, she became a super important part of this entire book. So I like that we start to get their friendship of sorts here.
Yeah.
So
it's sweet.
Yeah.
And it's nice to see that obviously it's told through the lens of Diem's experience.
Yeah.
So we see the character arc she's having to go on, the struggles she's dealing with. But it's nice that you also see the struggles that the other characters are dealing with because of this blending and this kind of like switch up to how they thought their life and their world was kind of going to be going and how it was going to be ruled. And I think Alex is a great one where, you know, she definitely has visions of a more integrated society, but then she also struggles with kind of how she plays into that and her role. And I really like it. But also with this part, you see the struggle that Diem's going through of like, she grasps that she is the queen and she's been put in this position. She still doesn't fully understand why and doesn't feel deserving of it.
Yeah.
And I think it also sometimes impacts her ability to understand just how important her life is over other people in the group, where she wants everyone to be equal and they're trying to be like, well, at the end of the day, I'm going to put my life before yours.
Yeah. Because
you're the queen. Like, you are in charge of so many people. You're the only way really forward for a better society. Losing you is going to have way more of an impact than losing me. And she can't grasp that because they're so important to her life. Mm-hmm. And you really see this with these situations at this point and then later at the end of this little section that we're going to talk about, where it's really hard for her to leave people behind essentially and choose herself over other people.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed. Yeah. And I think it's super, like you said, super important. And then, you know, when they they pretty much all get out safe. I'll do air quotes on that, but they get out of the section and they basically cross the border into Igneos, is that how you say it? Or Ignos? I don't know.
Igneos is how I've been saying it.
Yeah, same. And the mortals can't cross over because I think don't they literally just set a blaze and that's it? Yeah. Okay.
Like you cross over. Pew.
Yeah, I thought so. Okay. So that was an interesting thing. So that part, obviously they get out and their group is really tested in this next section. And then even into part 2 is super tested. Like they're really put through their little mini challenges, in my opinion. I know that's not specific to this chapter, but really is this entire book is their, I don't know, kind of Hunger Games vibe. Okay, we got to work together against this something else that's going on.
Yeah. I will say from this point on, pretty much like the end of the book, really reminded me of the section of Onyx Storm where they're on the islands.
Yes.
And they're going to each of them, like on the Isle Kingdoms, because every little island they went to, it was a different group of people and different things that they were dealing with, and they didn't know the reception they were getting. And that's what this reminded me of, because every area, they go to quite a few realms, and they have very different experiences at all of them.
Yeah.
And they learn a lot about all of them in each. So it really reminded me of that book, which I liked. That was my favorite part of that book. So I really liked this part where we got to go to the other realms.
You know what? Maybe that's why I love this book so much, because of the fact you were on an adventure and you were getting new pieces. And this was a lot more of the world building that I think we literally had said when we recorded the second book. Was the first one was very specific to Mortal area. The second was the Descended in Lunos. And then we were hoping that we'd get more. And this one totally checked all the boxes of being able to go around. So
now, before we jump into the Igneo section, which area was your favorite to read about?
Ooh,
I think I know your answer.
Probably Umbros, in my opinion.
Yeah, I knew it. You've been riding hard for the Queen of Umbros.
I have.
Since book 1. You love her, and when she, spoiler, died in this,
yeah.
I was like, Meg's probably pissed.
Girl. I knew it was going to happen because obviously, you know,
she told us it's happening.
She told us it's happening. It's just a matter of time. I have so many questions on every piece of info she gave Diem in part 2. And why does she say it in the way that she does?
Oh, yeah. I can't wait till we get there. That was also my favorite place, though, too.
I can't. It was my favorite place. I love the people that we meet.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
the market. It just seemed like a cool place. I don't know. I liked it.
I don't know. It was very much feeling as if it was Crescent City in the sense of everyone and everyone was there. Do you know what I mean?
I like that, yeah.
Yeah. And I think I just liked it that way.
No, yeah, that one was my favorite. Quite a few that I didn't like, including Igneos.
I will say I did not like Igneos, but I liked it in a way because of what we learned.
My least favorite was Fortos.
Yeah.
Just because interactions we had to have there.
Exactly. Same. Same here.
Important piece to note, as we start this now, we are going to get one of the areas, but then also part 2 is going to be more of the other realms.
Yeah.
Even though she is a crown, you would think like she cannot be killed. No. Crowns cannot show up uninvited in other realms, which she is now doing, even though it is against her will. This is the only way she can get home. She's trying to find a fucking port so she can get home. Yeah. What would you like her to do?
Yeah. She's fucking Dorothy trying to get out of
She has to go. What was she supposed to do to get home? She has to go that way. So I kind of hate that rule.
Agreed.
The burning of the mortals was wild. And Luther and them didn't really believe her, but she knew. She was like, we can just go here. They literally look like they're like 10 feet away from each other, just staring at each other.
Yeah, it literally was just a
and then that one guy from Vance's group, I think they like push him over and then pew, and she's like, and that's why I'm not worried.
I hate to laugh, but it's just, that was so unexpected. It was very much
Hunger Games.
Yeah, it was. And we learned that obviously, I mean, there's pretty much just bones everywhere in this section of, you know, everyone who couldn't escape the desert and everything. It was just...
Yeah, that was weird too. So they start walking towards like the main city and they get there and there's bones everywhere. And I'm like, clearly they lived here. It must have been a desert terrain when they lived here. So what came through and killed them all? Was it him wiping, was it a mortal area and he wiped them all out?
That's my thought.
Did some type of natural disaster come through? I have no clue. I was so confused.
Yeah.
Obviously there's like no food and water, which is what they needed.
Yeah.
Tired, hungry, trying to get home. Taran has literal poison in his body.
Yeah.
It was a mess. And it then DM starts lying to everyone about, oh yeah, I'll be able to cure him, and she's freaking out knowing that he's about to die.
Yeah.
And I genuinely thought we were on limited time with him. I was pissed.
Oh, I really thought that this was going to be his last journey, and he was not making it farther than book 3. I really thought we were going to get someone killed off pretty quick.
Yeah, I thought he was going to die in this first section.
Yeah. I thought that was it. I thought it was going to end part 1 with him dying, and that was, you know.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
Bye.
Thank God it didn't, but I was pissed.
Yeah.
Some interesting things happened with the king here, though. The
Yeah.
king and the Gryvern.
Yes.
The king can figure out what's going on through the sand.
He has sand magic where...
I was like, okay. I mean, it makes sense because she can... I mean, she just hasn't figured out how to use it yet, but she could use the lights and the shadows probably to control and see what's going on. And we do see that other realms have this. Like, Arboros can talk to the plants and stuff like that. But
yeah.
He picks up the sand and he knows that they're in this area.
Yeah.
But he says to her, or he says out loud because he has no clue where she is, why does your sand feel different, almost like one of my own? And I will say, reading this initially, I was like, oh, is her dad from this realm? Because we've been trying to figure out, like, you know, her dad's clearly descended. Where's he from? So I was like, oh, he must be from Igneos.
Yep.
That's why. After finishing the book, looking back, I'm like, oh, that was foreshadowing of she is the heir to the Igneos crown.
Yeah. I think a lot of it comes into, because I think he says too, you're also something entirely different and new. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that I think she's going to be the heir to every single realm. And this is just me. I know we're jumping ahead, but this part is where we start to learn more of each section, and she starts to gain their powers. And I don't think it's just she gains all their powers and that's it. I think she actually is going to end up being the heir to every single one. And as we learn that certain people kind of say, okay, this is the, you know, you're the daughter of the forgotten, their voice kind of takes over whatever their kindred's voice is and all that stuff. Because I think with her dad, I don't think he has all of the power. I think he can just do the absorption of power is what she has as well. So I think she is truly going to be something even more than what her dad can even do.
Yeah.
Two things. I don't know.
One, listening back to the last episode, part 2 for Glow of the Everflame, at the end you make a comment about how her crown looks different.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I can't remember what the conversation was, but I literally jokingly say, oh, she's probably just gonna be like in charge of all the realms.
Yeah.
I'm like, damn, I should really pay attention to these throwaway comments more because it happened. But the other thing that is important to point out, going off of your thing about how when she walks into the different areas, she's able to unlock that magic. Some of them she already had, because Luther asks her, like, what realms have you visited before? Because her and Henry used to go on, like, little adventures.
Right.
And so Luther puts it together before she does, of course, because she does not think critically.
Yeah.
And so some of them she already had at this point because she had been to those realms. So, yeah, just an interesting thing. But I definitely think she's going to end up with all of them.
Yeah.
I guess I didn't think about her dad. I kind of thought maybe he was the same as her, where he had all of them.
Yeah.
But maybe you're right. Maybe it's just like he can just absorb them if he comes into contact with them. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, because he's like, technically just the 10th.
Yeah, and maybe she's going to be stronger than him. I don't know. But then, like, in that, this is jumping to part 2, but in that, like, diary entry that she reads, they say, like, they're really scared of him. So I don't know if I don't know how his power works, but It's crazy. Thank God, though, that she can use all these powers because she needs them.
Yeah.
Because that's the only way she's able to do magic in these realms, even though it is kind of sputtering in and out because of the borders. But
yeah,
she ends up using all of their own magic to fight all of them.
Yes. It literally is I'm not just using my light and shadows anymore. I'm literally just fighting fire with fire, essentially. And that's it.
Yeah. So it was just crazy. I love the way that the story was laid out, where initially first pass, I'm like, oh, maybe her dad's from this realm. And then looking back, like, wow, that was such good foreshadowing. The writing is really thought out, which I really appreciate.
Agreed.
The other thing that happens here is the Igneos Gryvern, which I'm not even going to attempt to say that animal's name. Tybalt, okay. He hears her.
Yeah.
And knows exactly where she's hiding with Alex, because they're separated at this point. And I was like, oh, no. Like, he's going to take them out. This is where we're losing someone here.
Yep.
And he kind of looks at her, and it's almost like they could communicate with each other. And then he very clearly chooses to protect her. So up on first pass reading, I was like, does she have some connection to the Gryverns? Like, is she like in charge of them? Is she the leader of them? Like, what is the connection? Later we find out Saray and him are kind of in love, and they've been separated for all these years. So I think more it had to do with he recognized that she was Saray's owner and felt the need to protect because of that love. Or maybe he could sense, this is the heir, I'm going to belong to her soon. Because they did say that the Gryverns can sense when the crown is going to be switching.
Yeah.
And they can sense the heir. So I don't know. It's one of those two things. But I just thought that was so interesting upon first reading.
Yeah. And so I was with you. I really was questioning if she could speak to all of them in their mind. Now this is another foreshadowing that she gets Umbros magic at some point, but only when she gets there does she really start to, take their, that power as well. But I was questioning too. Tybalt, I think, literally says to the king, they are here and they have no intention to harm you. They're literally just here because they needed to be, literally just flee what was happening over there. And he does not care. He goes, I don't care. You're basically just need to get them for me regardless. So I wonder if he did truly just feel, okay, they're not here, to your point with Saray kind of having that connection of, I'm not going to cause her any more pain because we can't even be near each other. We literally have to be separated for this whole time. I went down a whole rabbit hole of, could she talk to all of the Gryverns? Are they going to, is she going to be able to, I don't want to say control all of them, because her main goal is really to set them free and not have to be chained to the crowns. But will she have the ability to have that power is maybe how I'll go about it,
Yeah, I'm glad I wasn't the only one. I was like, is she gonna use them to create some type of revolution to turn on all the other crowns? I was so confused what was going on. Again, just like the writing being so good, where like first pass, your mind's going on all these different things, and then it all comes together in the end and starts to make sense, which I absolutely love. Also, the king treats Tybalt terribly.
I was mad. I was
so mad. And they can't do anything. They're just forced to serve the crown no matter what.
Yeah, I know. And if you literally get a terrible person, you just have to deal with them. But the fact that he defies him is pretty powerful in my mind, because of how bad he is treated, that he just said, no, I'm not going to tell you. That's it. We're just going to move away and keep going. So, I mean, that was a pretty ballsy thing to do. Especially because the king could literally say, well, the sands still say they're here. So where are they?
Yeah. And then they just leave.
Yeah. They just peace out for a bit. I did have a weird theory, and it kind of goes back to where she's getting her power. But I think at this point, Alex had basically made some blessing to, Lumnos for hoping to help Taryn and make sure that he's okay. And you know how they give a drop of their magic just into the ether or whatever? I went on an unhinged thing. I go, is Lumnos low-key storing this magic somewhere? Or is it literally just thrown to the wind and it's gone? I go, because they keep mentioning that DM's extremely strong. And yes, you might be the strongest in having all the realm's power. But I go, is she getting more of that power because of these blessings? I'm like, I think I'm going too far into a theory there, but I think it's just I don't know where this blessing just gets thrown into the air, or if Lumnos and the other Kindred just have this for their most powerful fighter, is what I'll say. But
I like the theory. I like it. If that is the direction it goes, I think that could be a really interesting twist. I didn't think of it that way, but I do like it.
Yeah.
I was more thinking it's like when you just like throw a penny into like a fountain or a wishing, like,
right,
you're just throwing it out, and then if someone comes and collects those, I don't know what goes on with those coins that are in there.
Exactly.
Or I guess maybe another direction that it could be going is, because I don't know, like, are they putting it where the magic is going? Do they throw it in the air? Does it go into the ground? I don't know if maybe it's adding to the foraging magic that keeps the border strong. I don't know, but I would like that theory that they're somehow collecting it and giving it to this chosen person that they've picked. I don't know.
I mean, like I said, I could be going way off, but it was just I don't know if every other realm does this where they give a blessing, in a little bit of their magic, or it's just Lumnos specifically, because we still don't know enough about each of the realms and their rituals and their everything.
Like the Kindred.
Exactly. Yeah, we just know surface level at this point, I think, of each. So,
The only thing I feel pretty confident about when it comes to Lumnos is that like, kind of like that saying she keeps giving to DM through other people of like, give our gift to my loyal heir. Mm-hmm. I think that's Luther.
I think so too.
So I worry that DM's not even going to survive this series.
I know, because does she end up having to give her power to him? Because you know how she can kind of absorb the power. Does she give that power to him to be able to continue on?
Yeah, I'm very concerned with what is going to happen with them, because clearly Luther's ending up with this gift, because she keeps saying loyal follower, and he's obsessed with Lumnos and being like, giving things back to her and following her word. So I definitely feel like it's him. I cannot wait until we get into the prophecy stuff that the Umbros Queens are saying, like the 11 in 1 thing. I was like, what is going on?
I have some thoughts, but I don't have enough to back them. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of just random comments there on what that could be, but who knows?
Yeah. The only other thing I had in this section for my notes was that DM gets the ingredients to make like a salve almost.
Yeah.
To try and almost extract the poison out of Taryn's wound. At this point, she, of course, was never allowed to learn about Godstone, so she's just thinking back on like a couple things that she read, and she's not feeling confident in it. And I have to say, when she's making the first batch and she cuts herself and her blood goes in, and they specifically make it a point to say, she scoops out the section with her blood in it and continues on. I was like, okay. Again, I don't know if this is the book being predictable or just me being way more clued into things to look for. But I was like, of course her blood is going to be like the secret ingredient that they need.
Yeah.
Because she puts that salve on and it starts to work. It's not fully curing him, but it's like instantly hardens to like tar almost, they said. And so she starts getting like really hopeful, blah, blah, blah. Fast forward later in the book. She's using the same thing and it's not working. And it just annoyed me that she could not connect those dots.
Yeah, she definitely... No, I completely missed that part.
She's kind of a shitty healer.
But she... out of everything else, I'll give her the not knowing strategy in terms of battle and how to handle, conversations with, other crowns and stuff. I'll give her that. She's new to it. But the healer part, I mean, your mother literally trained you from a young age to be a healer. And she's very smart when it comes to other things.
Yeah.
But for some reason, when it's, how did this work? What did I use specifically? And she kept thinking that it's ignos water or something.
The water.
And I go, okay, I mean, maybe because that's where you got your flame powers, maybe something with, were you able to burn it differently? I don't know, but yeah, that was, I don't know. Definitely didn't key into the, oh, hey, what did I use at that moment and what were, what happened specifically?
Yeah, I honestly would not have thought anything of it if they didn't put the line that she tried to scoop it out. Then, though, I was kind of going back and forth because, like, oh, she must have gotten all of it out, so there was actually no blood in it. But I think there probably was still, like, a little bit of a remnant in there. Yeah. But I was like, the fact that they had to make it a point that, like, she had to take the blood out because it couldn't mess with the thing. I was like, of course, this is going to be some secret potion for it, of course, which, spoiler.
Ends up being it. Yeah.
It is. And I cannot wait till we get to part 3. We can talk about when Sophos drops that bomb. And it's like, no, it's not actually working. It's because DM told you guys to try it with her blood in it. Mm-hmm. So they think they have this fucking cure. They don't. Not without her.
And it's not going to work.
So I love it. I love it because I hate that person.
I do too.
Yeah. But I was glad that it seemed to work and Taryn was on the road to recovery because I was very nervous. He is the Riddick of the book.
Yeah. It was getting really tough towards the end, and then obviously I kind of knew what chapters were each part because I had looked to make sure what I need to write down in terms of my notes. But also at the end when Diem is basically fighting the king of Igneos and he goes to basically just take the killing blow at Luther and she jumps in front. And I go, okay, so now what? Taryn's safe, but then Diem's now going to be, risking her life again for someone. So it was just another part that was just, oh, come on. The back and forth here of someone always has to be in mortal danger.
That was also wild when they were like hiding her under that cloak to get out.
Yeah.
And the power starts hitting her. That was wild when they touched her and her skin was boiling. And then when she got in the water, it was super hot, steaming. Yeah. Everyone was like, I'm freezing. That was just crazy how like physical that was, the power coming on for her. Mm-hmm. She just wanted to go in the water.
I know. I wonder if that's how they react as well. Because
I don't know. It sounded like she felt like she was being burned alive, but it also felt good.
Yeah. Every single time she talks about something going on, it feels terrible, but also right. And it's as if she's coming into those powers, and it's okay. This might be terrible for 5 seconds, but you will feel fine when you have the full power.
Yeah,
very, very interesting.
But they're able to make it out of Igneos. Thank goodness.
Yeah. And that was the first part that we see when Luther's able to pour his magic into her, which she got super lucky that all of a sudden he had his power back at that moment to be able to save. That kind of becomes important in the future of being able to push power into people and also back into yourself. So I like how we get little pieces of info. So we mentioned that earlier, but that one was another cool one.
Yeah. Really well done.
Yeah, agreed. Also, I don't have anything that's of value except for this is when I went into that unhinged theory that Luther did the mating bond and they needed to get back to Lumnos because he started saying, we need to get back to Lumnos immediately. We cannot go anywhere else. I don't care. We just need to get back. And I was like, do you need her to complete this mating bond ritual? In my head, I just started going,
oh, you thought they did it already up here.
I thought he had started doing it because he started getting super persistent of we need to get back. He was getting super short with her. There was a part where Taryn, wasn't really doing well. And he had said, is it okay to lie to someone to kind of say basically, just to spare them because you love them so much. And at the time she thought it was about Taryn, but it really was about what he was hiding from her the whole time. So I literally just started going off into unhinged theory, and then when it gets revealed, I go, okay, I'm a dumbass and I'll take that.
The second he said that, I was like, oh bitch, you got hit.
Yeah.
I picked up on the which we'll talk, this is like gonna be a big thing in part 2. Yeah, I picked up on that so early because I'm like, Okay, why are you giving her some lecture about tarot?
Yeah.
Like, I felt like he wouldn't have wasted, like, the way he said it was so, like, poetic and all this.
It was.
I feel like he would have just been more of a straight shooter with her. That's more the relationship they have. So I was like, why is he, like, talking so weird about this? And I was like, oh, of course, it's because of him. And then, but honestly, I thought the persistence to get back to Lumnos was more he wanted to, like, get Remus out of power, Eamon out of power.
True.
And he was, like, itching for that to happen early, so I thought that's more the thing. I will say though, I 100% think in part 3 the mating bond happens, and I believe they each did it separately, because
agreed.
The fact
after you told me about it,
the fact that when we learned about the mating bond in part 2, they specifically said you do not need to do it together. One person could choose to do it and then you could end up stranded. I was like, oh, of course that's going to come into play. Like, why would they tell us that you could do it by yourself if you wanted to?
Yeah.
If that's not what they're going to do. So I definitely think in part 3, I cannot wait to talk about that theory. I'm convinced in part 3 they become mates, and that is like their mating thing is going to be how they get back to each other.
Yeah.
Partnered with the compass.
Yeah. I cannot wait for the theory. I think by the time we record for the 3rd part, I will have read the first couple chapters of the 4th book, so I'll have more info. But yeah, I totally just was going hard on that, of there was something there that they were trying to do, of promise that they were, he was going to take the crown to, I don't know. It was
it. That would have been wild if he did it this early. Like, I mean, obviously at this point we don't know if they are mates, and he could have, like, we could find out in book 4, yeah, he did do it this early.
Right.
So wild. Like, they haven't even said I love you.
I know. It could have just been, well, this is it.
They haven't talked about the future yet. Yeah. But that's interesting.
Because I also think, too, now knowing that he was injured, I then went back and said, oh, maybe he did go forth with it, in the sense of, well, I'm not going to live any longer. So even if you don't complete your side, it's not like you're going to be stranded. It'll just be me dead and stranded at the same time. But it probably not the case. It's probably in part 3. So we'll just take my unhingedness as what it is, and say, okay, totally read too fast.
I like it. No, I like it. It's hard too when we're doing the parts, because I wrote down like my real-time questions and thoughts, and so I was putting the notes in. I was like, okay, but I know the answer to this now, so it's nice to be like, I originally thought this, now I can see it as foreshadowing for this, so I like that we can reflect on it that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, this was basically part 1.
Yeah.
I feel like it was definitely the slowest of the 3 parts. It was really just setting us up for the adventure we're about to go on. I cannot wait to talk about part 2 at Umbros, and then part 3, I don't even know how we're going to fit that into a concise episode, because so much happens.
You're going to laugh. I literally think I broke up part 3 into 6 or 7 parts in itself, because it was little chunks that happened that were so important. It was just, I don't know. I feel like we might yap for a long time on that one.
Yeah. I'm really excited for part 2, though. And to break down all the prophecies.
I can't wait. Part 2 for me, I think, is what made this book so good. And it felt very much like the 2nd book of this series, of the excitement.
Yes. And I cannot wait to chat about the Zalaric of it all.
Unforeseen person that I love.
Oh, see, I feel like I have such a hot take on him.
I'm curious. I mean, I definitely have things to say, but
yeah, I feel like I'm going to be in the minority on him. Yeah, but that's fine. It makes for good conversation.
Exactly. Exactly. Oh, man. All right. As we've literally mentioned multiple times, we're going to just be covering part 2 of Heat of the Everflame in our next episode. So if you want more information, I would definitely recommend reading the book, because we're going to keep doing more spoilers, and you can hear along, with us on what's going on. But for more things, Booktrovert, follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Booktroverts. Join our Fable Book Club as well and read along with us. And we'd love to hear your thoughts and ideas. Bye, everyone.
Bye.